Am I the only one who wishes the villains were worse? Like, I wish the villains were more evil and I wish they fought back more. Is that a weird thing to wish for? I feel like she got her revenge way too easy. But I mean, she has been planning it for like the past, 15 years. So it only makes sense. But I wanted a little more fight from the villains. There wasn't that much fight. So if you've not seen The Glory Part 2, you should watch it before you listen to this podcast because I do spoil things. So spoiler alert before we begin. I do spoil things. For those who've not seen the first part of my review, that is the review of The Glory Part 1, you guys should probably check that out first because I do make references to a lot of things I mentioned in that episode. And, also it's just interesting to see like how I thought this drama would be for part 2 and how different like the reality came to be. And I don't think I deviate too much from what I originally thought would happen in this like second part. So yeah, check that out if you've not seen my review of part 1. Hi guys, welcome to the Drama Surgeon podcast. In this episode, I am excited, really excited to review The Glory Part 2. It came out like last week and I was one of the first people on there watching it because like I have been waiting for this since the first part aired. And I have to say, I did enjoy the second part. I enjoyed it so much. There were things that I had like issues with, but generally I'm glad to see a revenge happen and also for our main character Dong-un to also have an happy ending. So it satisfied everything I wanted in that sense. There were things that I struggled with, but again, I'll talk about that later. But generally, this was a good second part. Like, it was satisfying to watch her take down everybody that she'd planned meticulously to take down. And I like that about this. Like, she gets it done, right? So generally, I'm just going to talk about things that I noticed as I was watching this drama and, things that I was like, okay, yeah, this is an interesting point to mention. But yeah, we begin part 2 and Mundogu's revenge is ongoing, right? She's still in the midst of planning and executing her plan of basically ruining her tormentors, right? And it's interesting to me because I mentioned in the first part review that I did that I was unsure about Lee Do-yeon's character. Lee Do-yeon plays Joo Jung, who is this character that I guess he's Mundongo's executioner, right? He does everything she wants. And I was not sure why he was so okay, right, with being an accomplice in this crime that she's kind of committing in some ways. And the second season like explains it. And I guess I was right in the sense that it is because of how his father's murderer got away. Even though his father's murderer was jailed, there's still a sense of it's not real punishment, right? I was wrong in the sense that when I mentioned that it must have been for a personal reason, like there was a reason why the perpetrator, right, did what he did. Like there was like maybe bad blood between them in some way and was like a revenge thing or something. But actually, it wasn't. The guy was truly just like a psychopath in the sense that like he wanted to meet Yoo Jung because his father had mentioned, something about like ramen and telling him not to eat ramen. Like, it's so sad because his father was like the only one in that room that was not like judging him in that moment. And that's what makes it even extra sad. And, even though his father is dead in this drama, right, we see moments in the past where his father's like goodness is basically saving them in some way. Like, so for example, right, it's his father that makes sure they ice Soi's body because he mentions that maybe one day there will be a reason for our body to be, recovered and, re-examined. And it was so amazing because like, I don't know, his family in this drama, right, it comes from a family of doctors. They are actually real altruistic people. His mom too is in the sense very, very altruistic. Like the moment where he tells his mom that he's going to help Dong-un for a revenge, his mom gets it. And it's interesting to me that she gets it and she's like, okay, just be careful, don't get caught, right? I found that very like powerful, like that moment. Like she also felt the same thing he was feeling, that like the dad's murderer did not get enough punishment and so he was basically going to live vicariously through Dong-un's revenge. Another thing I will say that I like about this second part too is that Lee Do-yeon's character gets more screen time. Like in the first part, I don't see him that much. Like, I feel like he was there for like 2 scenes and that was it. Or maybe it just didn't have impact the way, Jung Sung-gil did. And when I say Jung Sung-gil, I mean Ha Do-young, right? So Yeonjin's husband, who is like my favorite, is my favorite of this whole drama. Everybody else pales in comparison to him. But yeah, in this second part, he gets actual scene and screen time that we actually see his thought process with. We come to like relate with him and understand why he's doing what he's doing, right? And so I'm glad for that in the second part. I will say that one thing that like cracked me up in this part 2 was that his character, because Donghoon is basically planning like the murder of multiple people, and Idoya's character is always like trying to flirt with her in the midst of this, and it was always comical to me because there's this like clash in what they both want, like, right? Like I feel like Ido-young wants love, and Song Hye-kyo's character is just like, yeah, no, sorry, like it's all about like murder, and you're not Yeonjin, so I don't care, kind of thing. But yeah, that's one thing I noticed, that he'll say something like really romantic, and she'll like be like, oh yeah, but like I need to kill Yeonjin, and I need to like make her life miserable. And that was something that was very funny to me. But I like how he was always there for her. I liked how he supported her and loved her just as she is, right? And even though I would say I don't understand, like at the end they mentioned the part where he met her early and he kind of like inferred what she was doing. I don't know if I buy that, but I'll take it and be like, okay, yeah, I guess he is observant like that, and he was okay with that, and so that's why he let her approach him in that sense. But I was like, well, that kind of makes it a little weird that he basically knew, or actually maybe not, because Donghoon was also doing something like that. So actually they are right for each other, they are perfect for each other. But yeah, his character in this second part was way more enjoyable. I really, really liked his character. His chemistry with Song Hye-kyo was better here, and there was more of it. It still doesn't beat her chemistry with Ha Do-young, but I feel like that's more because it's Jung Sung-gil and actually not having to do with like the story. But story-wise, like actually they fit well, and I liked seeing that, and liked seeing her have moments of happiness and have a good happy ending. Even though I don't know if we could call their like what they were doing at the end a happy ending, because they are basically redoing everything they've done before. Like it's as if they are now like revenge fighters or something. Like that's what they do. But I still like how he ended, because like I want Yeojung's father's murderer to pay for what he did. So I do like that, how he ended, in that sense that it's not like all roses and sunshine, but it's still kind of a happy ending. Another thing I will note that I mentioned in part 1 of my review was that Yeonjin's scar that she has on her leg, I assumed it was her that gave herself the scar, right? But we see actually in part 2 that it was actually Song Myung-ho that scratched her when she was basically murdering him with like a bottle, right? So he scratches her, and that's how she got the scar. Like, okay, I guess in part 1 they never tell us how she got the scar. We just see it there, and I just assumed that, oh, okay, she's inflicting injuries on herself. But yeah, that's one thing that I noticed, that they actually clarify on how she got that scar. But yeah, moving on. One thing I will also mention in this drama is that I enjoyed the fact that all the villains had like a terrible ending. But I will say that I was not too happy with how easy it was for them to, be dealt with. Like I get that like she's been planning this for years and years, and it makes sense in that way, but like for some reason, I don't know, Park Yeonjin in this second part isn't as annoying, or she isn't as punchable. Like, how a character is so evil that you feel like punching her in the face through like your TV, that kind of thing. Like for some reason in this second part she wasn't giving me that vibe. Nobody was giving me the vibe of like they are really fighting. I feel like the main character was winning just because she was the main character, right? So I had the same issue with Reborn Rich, in the sense that at the end, like the last few episodes, for some reason nobody was paying attention to Sung Joong-ki's character. Like he was basically taking over their company and they had no idea. And it was odd to me in that sense that like, what? This is nothing that's a secret. You should know this, right? And so it's almost like they just make the main character win in that sense. This one isn't as bad as Reborn Rich, but I still get that sense of like Yeonjin could have been more of a fighter. Like she could have fought more. They could have all fought more, right, to make sure like Donghoon pay. But they just all leave her alone. Like I'm surprised they didn't even try to kill her once. That's part that's surprising me. Like everybody is such a terrible person that I'm surprised they didn't come together and we were like, let's murder this girl. That will solve all our problems because it would actually solve their problems. But they never like go that route. They never even think about it. They all just like stare at her like annoyingly, like, oh, I hate you kind of stares. Like no one ever like thinks of doing even more, blaming her for something. Like she's always all alone. Like I'm just like, you could end Dongun very quickly if you wanted to. I guess you guys aren't like fighting because I guess main character, but like it's that sense of, oh gosh, they could have put up more of a fight. Because if they had put up more of a fight, the satisfying feeling you get when you've actually ended the character and actually finished the character to the end would have been so much sweeter. Right, like Dongun's revenge would have felt even better, but I guess part of this drama is like healing. So actually, I shouldn't wish for that, because I guess it's actually a terrible thing that I'm saying this, because technically she makes Dongun's life miserable all through the younger years. But for some reason, I don't know, it wasn't enough for me. Or maybe, okay, what they should have done maybe was show me more backstory of all the bullying. Like they do that well in part 1, but it's been what, 3 months? I've kind of forgotten, right? I've forgotten all the evil things. Like, no, I know there is, and I'm sure there. Like, I can go back and watch it. But again, reiterating why she deserves what she's getting would have been really, really good. But yeah, I mean, it's fine that they didn't do that. It's not like a deal breaker for me, but so that I could like have that moment of like just utter satisfaction, of just watching her being ruined. But I'll leave that to just me being like a someone that wants to see more like bad things happen to the main character. It's not like I want that, but I feel like that would have, really made this drama, like the second part, really, really worth it. One thing I will say though, about the character that plays the young Yeonjin, one of the reasons why I struggled, I think, with the character was because, and why I thought the character did not fit, or like it wasn't good enough for me, in the sense that she didn't seem evil enough. The character that plays the young Yeonjin is Shin Yeon, and I like Shin Yeon, and she has a face that's not punchable. Unfortunately, like I guess I know her from too many things. Like for example, I watched 18, so I know that character more, and I guess she wasn't able to translate in this, because I was like, oh god, it's Shin Yeon. She's Shin Yeon. She's amazing. I love her. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean she's the bully? Like, she wasn't giving me that vibe of like a terrible, terrible person. Like, I guess they could have put more effort in that sense. But yeah, that's probably why I also struggled with finding them evil. Im Ji-yeon does a better job in that sense, but yeah, Shin Yeon for me is someone that I like, so it was a struggle to watch her, be a bully. But I like that she was a bully, because usually she's the main character. She's the nice person. She's the charismatic girl kind of character. That's the kind of character she plays. And in this drama, she decided to take on a different role, and I like that. I like the fact that she chose to do that. And explore something new. So one thing that was really satisfying for me was the scene with Donggun's colleague. I was shocked by how satisfying him punching Donggun's colleague would be. Like, it was such a satisfying scene. The scene where basically he finds out that Donggun's colleague has basically been taking pics of the children. Like, he's basically a pedophile, right? And he's been taking pictures of the young girls. And just that scene where Jejun just, like, he almost kills this guy. Like, that was kind of the revenge I want. Like, it's sad that it's Jeju that fulfilled that need for revenge in my mind. But I guess I like more violence and less. Like, it's the same with like Weak Class Hero. For those who've not seen my review of Weak Class Hero, you should check it out. But I mentioned how, like, just the fact that first episode where Shion is, bashing in the head of his classmate, that was it for me. I was like, oh yes, this is it. Like, when you do something wrong, I always think you should pay, in that sense, in Dramaland at least, right? So that moment was just amazing, because I just hated seeing that guy's face and his stupid bowl cut hair. Like, it was so annoying. Like, I've never, God, some characters are just made to be sleazy. Like, they do it well. They cast some people well to just be sleazy, and that this character fit perfectly. I hated his face. I hated his haircut. Like, I hated everything about him. And yeah, Jojo fulfilled my dream of just punching the guy. Like, that's what I mean when I say I want a punchable face. His face was very punchable, right? So yeah, that was something I really, really enjoyed. That scene was A plus plus for me. Even though like Ha-do-young was pissed about it, and I understand why he's pissed, because he would have done things differently. Probably maybe worse, because like they said, like Ha-do-young is a son of a bitch. It's just one that maybe doesn't even know it himself. So I assume that colleague is definitely seeing jail time now that, you know, Ha-do-young's company has taken charge of that case. One thing I will say, I was not expecting this drama, because again, it's kind of a sad drama, it's melodrama, it's, you know, thriller. There's not a lot of happy moments, but for some reason the actual moments of comedy in this that I was not expecting, in the form of Jejun's lawyer friend. So Jejun has this lawyer friend that basically, you know, bails him out whenever he has like issues, because Jejun is freaking crazy, like he's ballistic. And this guy comes and saves his friend, right? And every time he's in the scene, he's basically the comic relief for that moment, right? And even Jejun ends up becoming the comic relief as well, which is sad because I shouldn't be laughing because he's a terrible person. But some things he does is just funny. For example, the scene where Jejun and Ha-do-young are fighting in the parking lot of like the police station, and like Ha-do-young is kicking his ass, like Ha-do-young is like he's about to ruin this guy's like face, right? And you know, at some point he's so tired, like Jejun is so tired and he's basically panting, like he's so tired of fighting, and he goes, you know, don't hold me back. And his friend is like, yeah, no one was holding you back. And I just laughed. Like it was so funny to me because it was just really, really funny. Even though it was a serious thing that was going on in the background. And Ha-do-young was obviously not finding this funny. I mean, neither of them are, but that moment was just really comical to me. And yeah, there are other moments like that when like Jejun is in the, you know, police station and they're basically interrogating him, you know, and asking him questions about what happened. And that whole scene was just comic relief for some reason. Like, I don't know if that's intended, but for me it was. And, you know, I appreciate that little comedy that, I mean, I otherwise wouldn't have expected, because of how heavy the tone of this drama is. But yeah, moving on, another thing I'll say I disliked about this second part is not actually the story or the drama itself, but it's the freaking subtitles. Like, I don't know who Netflix is paying to subtitle this drama, but oh my god, even I that I am not like a Korean native, I know that the subtitles is trash. I don't know I don't know who they sourced out for this, but Netflix, if you're listening, fire those people. Like, oh my god, it's really, really bad. I don't know how this passed. It's basically like they use like Google Translate, right? And then just edited things to make it like look nice. But like it's basically Google Translate in that sense. Like things are missed that they shouldn't be. Like it's not difficult to translate some things that they missed the translation on. And I'm not sure why that is. And some Netflix dramas do have that problem. I know that happens. But I mean, this was really, really bad. Even I noticed that almost every scene, there was something wrong with the subtitles in that sense. I don't know if anybody else noticed, but I did. Now, I have to move on to Yeonjin. Like I was talking about how I wish that character was worse. One thing I will mention that I noticed, and I guess I didn't notice this immediately when I was watching part 1, but the character that plays are like quote unquote mom, because I don't know if you can call that woman a mother, like, but our mom in this drama, right, is the same person that plays our mom in the drama Obsessed, because Im Ji-yeon is in the drama Obsessed, and it's the same actress that plays her mom in both dramas. It's very interesting because like a little thing that I didn't notice at first, but going back and I watched Obsessed, I was like, oh my god, it's the same woman again. And again, in that drama, so she's also terrible. Like, if you can believe it, she's also a terrible person in that drama. So, like, she has like a few scenes, like one maybe scene in that drama, but she's also like a terrible person. Like, from the reaction of the female lead in that drama, you can tell, like, nah, she's also a very terrible like woman to have as a mother figure. But yeah, let's move on and go to really the main character of my episode. The main character I felt like in this second part, the character of Ha-do-young, played by Jung Sung-yeol, who is Yeonjin's husband in this drama, right? So Ha-do-young is this character that I really loved in season 1 for the chemistry he had with Sung Ye-gyu, right? So that was why I liked him a lot in the first part, and also because it's hot. Like It's very hard. So there's that. But really because of the chemistry he had with Song Ye-kyo's character. But in part two, I will say that the reason why I liked him, and I mean I like him even more now, but the reason why I like him now is because of how good of a father he is. Like he's a very good father. Like I mentioned this in my part one review, that I have pity most for the character of Hayesol, because I mean she has a terrible mom and actual biological father, like terrible, terrible people. And I said, the best thing for her is probably if she just stays with her current dad. But I guess one issue that a lot of people, including me, was scared about was that once he finds out, that's the end. Like he's going to like throw her out, throw Park Hyun-jin out, and that'll be it. It was either that or you'll take their side. I never expected it to actually go in the way he did, in the sense that he wasn't supportive of what Park Hyun-jin had done, but at the same time he recognized that Hyesol is his daughter. That was something I was not expecting would play out in the way it did, and I'm glad it did, because oh my god, it just made him so much hotter. Like he made him like, oh gosh, this guy is amazing. Like I've never liked a character more, like a father figure more, than I did in the moment, like watching this part two. And I feel like I understand his thought process the most. Like, for example, at the very beginning, when he is finding out about what Park Hyun-jin did, he isn't quick to villainize her, in the sense that he's like, okay, tell me your side. And, Park Hyun-jin is basically trying to gaslight him, because she does that to everybody. And Jae-jun will eat that up. But, I mean, Adoyoung is not Jae-jun, so he's not buying her bullshit. But, he isn't quick to judge her, in the sense that he's like, okay, tell me your side. And, he's trying to understand what is happening, what has happened. And it's his own personal discovery. Like I like the scene, for example, where he basically realizes, like as he finds out that his daughter is not his daughter, he basically realizes just how long the affair has been going on with Jae-jun. Because he comes into his house, goes into the walk-in closet, it's like his eyes opens and he sees, even though it's always been there, he really sees this time around all the blue bags from the store that Jae-jun owns, right? Jae-jun has the store Siesta. That's where Park Hyun-jin bashes Song Myung-go's head in, right? And that's when he really notices all the bags from that store, and just how often she obviously goes there. And that moment was very poetic. It was very good, because it's like an eye opener for him, that I was like, oh my god, she's been doing this without any remorse. And he mentions that like she's almost brazen about what she's done. And even then, even when he realizes all the terrible things she's done, he tells Donghoon that he's not going to divorce her. And it's in that moment actually that they allude to the title of this drama, when Donghoon basically says it matters that you divorce her, that you leave her, because you're her glory, right? And that's the moment that it was like, oh wow, that's really good. I really like that. I really like that. So he isn't quick to throw her out, because again, this is something that all humans struggle with, or all humans have this and that. When you know somebody, it's very hard for you to see them as a bad guy, right? And so even though Park Hyun-jin is she's a monster, oh my god, she's a terrible, terrible person. For Ha Do-young, she doesn't appear this way. We, the viewers, can see things from the perspective of Donghoon, because we are following her as the main character. But for Ha Do-young, he has no idea, right? Think of it like he's blind to all this. He has not watched the drama, obviously, like us, right? And so he doesn't see the way we see it. So his view of Park Hyun-jin is going to be very different from everybody else's view, right? And so he isn't quick to be like, okay, he's going to throw her out, right? And he says that, he tells Donghoon that, yeah, no, he's not leaving her. And actually, I liked the progression of how he finally made the decision that this person, he has to leave her, right? The first time, I feel like it was almost like a cup. You can think of it like a cup, in the sense that every action that Park Hyun-jin takes kind of fills the cup up more a little bit. And when I say fills the cup, I'm trying to say, okay, by the time the cup is full, he's done with her. And so, for example, the scene with all the bags in the closet is like the first part where, okay, there's a little more liquid poured into the cup. And then the scene where the bullying actually gets revealed to the public, and she's basically at his company talking to his lawyers, and just her reaction, the way she's acting in that moment, is another moment where he's like, what the hell, like, who is this person? And the cup fills up a little bit more, right? And so it's moments like that that, add to just how he makes the decision that this person is a terrible person. I think personally that really the part that made the decision for him, and I don't think they show this, really is the relationship with his daughter, Ayesol. He is very conscious of just how terrible this woman is. And I think that's why he ended up making the decision he did to basically kick her out of his life. Because the last moment that filled the cup was that moment where he basically goes, go to Soi's mom, apologize for what you did. If you don't, our marriage is over. If you do, we might, try and make it work. And she basically scrunches off the paper and tosses it. And that moment was just like, yeah, cup is full. It's basically pouring. And so I think she basically wore him out in just how much compassion he could show to her, because he also started to see what us, the viewers, see, that Park Hyun-jin is a terrible person with no remorse. And that's really what I think gets him as well. The fact that she has no remorse for anything she does, right? And I think that's really, really what pissed him off. Other than the fact that, like, obviously she took advantage of him and, all these other things. But yeah, and his relationship with his daughter, Haeseo, just makes this drama even better. My favorite moment, and actually the moment that made this drama for me, that made this drama really worth it for me, was that moment where he goes to Ayesol's school and she's basically there just standing. I think they're in like playing soccer or something. And she's basically standing there because, she's heard all these things, and, people have been talking about how my mom is a terrible person all this while. And he stands afar and he's like, Princess, you have to come give me a hug. Like he goes and he basically hugs her. And just that moment was so beautiful, because like she burst into tears, right? Ayeso just starts crying, and she's like, she's sorry. And God, like, I almost started crying because that moment was very beautiful. And I like his mature response. He's like, none of this is happening because anything is your fault. It's not your fault, right? And his willingness to protect his daughter, even though he knows it's not his biological daughter, but a daughter he knows that he's raised, spend time and energy on, someone that he loves. He genuinely loves his daughter. Nobody can tell him that Ayesol is not his daughter in that sense. And, he's willing to protect her, do anything to make sure she's, protected from all the things that are happening. And that's what makes him my favorite character in this whole drama. That's what makes him the best person to raise Ayesol, because he actually genuinely loves her, regardless of whether she's his biological daughter or not. As a side note, actually, it would be very interesting to see a drama where Haeseo is the main character and she's basically grown up, but she still has the same background she's had. So she basically has a mom that's in jail, a dad that's dead because Ado Young basically pushed him into cement, right? And, her dad, like Ado Young, that's rich, but she's not his biological daughter. And the relationship she would have with, say, like Ado Young's mom, because Ado Young's mom definitely will make her life hell if she could, I'm sure, because our mom is going to be one of those people that they probably care about blood, and she'll probably be like, Ado Young should get remarried, and oh, you're not really his daughter. We've all seen those Korean dramas that are like 50 episodes that have that theme of like, oh, you're not really the daughter, or oh, you're adopted kind of thing. And I feel like it would be a really, really interesting drama to watch, because just that element of how she would grow up and how her life would be is something I'm actually very curious about. It's a drama they could explore if Netflix had any sense. Other little parts that I will say I noticed in this drama, for example, one thing was just how terrible all the villains were, in the sense that nobody, not one of them, noticed that the girl working in Jejun's office was somebody that they'd hurt in the past. Or maybe they do. Like, they never really talk much about that, like whether the characters know that she was the victim that came after Donggun, right? Because we see all the scars on her body as well, and she's also the one that ends up giving Donghoon like the murder weapon, because she basically witnessed Myung-ho get killed, get his head bashed in, right? And it was very interesting of that like full circle moment where they show the scene where Donghoon comes back into the gym. That moment where she comes in and she tells Park Hyun-jin that you're my dream now, and we see to the side. He finally shows to the side, and we see this girl, Gyeongran, that's off to the side and has basically become the victim. And it was just interesting to me that, and I will say that I like the difference. I like the dichotomy of somebody like Gyeongran and somebody like Mundungun, in the sense that they are very different in like what they took out of what happened to them. Gyeongran is somebody that hides herself and she's very like insecure. She's very scared. And I'm not saying that Dongun isn't scared as well. She's also scared. But the way they've channeled their fear, their hate and anger is very different. And it's very interesting to see those two different people and how they react to things. It's also interesting to see the reaction of somebody else that fought back, which is in the character of Sohee. Sohee is a character that fought back against, a perpetrator. And I guess, it was an accident, but also if she had survived that scene on the rooftop with Yeonjin, I feel like what would have happened to her would have been worse. So there's also the sense of there's also a time you can fight back. There's a place and time for revenge. It's something that you can't just do, because Sohee is a character that she's like the extreme end between all three victims, right? If Sohee is the extreme end, Dongun is right in the middle, while Gyeongran is at the very end, on a spectrum of like ability to fight back, ability to stand up for yourself, right? And that was something that was very interesting to me, just seeing those three characters, how they played and how they helped each other, even though Sohee is dead. Like, she still manages to help them in, what she contributed, in the sense that like her body was what was used to indict Yeonjin. But yeah, that's my review of The Glory Part 2. It was very easy to watch this. I watched this like on the weekend, and it was in one sitting. I finished it all. But yeah, this was a really, really good drama. It would have been better if they had just left it the way it was and aired the old 16, but it's fine. And maybe to some extent it builds the hype, so I understand it from that perspective. But yeah, I give this drama like an 8 over 10. An 8 over 10, which is pretty good. 8.5 because I like the scene that Isara stabbed Choi Hae-jung in the neck. That scene alone is like, it's worth the extra 0.5, because I like violence like that. Character that got the worst punishment might be Choi Hae-jung, the flight attendant, because she loses her voice, and the way she's talking makes her just like, for somebody that treasures beauty and being hot and everything, this is actually something that will kill her inside. Right. Really, I feel like Isha got no punishment, but I also feel like she has the worst punishment because she's a druggie, like she's a drug addict. And to be honest, that's the worst kind of punishment a person can have, right? So our punishment, just because, for all the things that happen to her, it doesn't seem like she cares, because again, she's a drug addict. So that's all that matters to her. But yeah, it was nice to see all of them kind of get what they deserved in that sense. And yeah, it was a very good drama to watch. I enjoyed watching this drama. If you've not seen it, check it out. Thank you guys so much for listening. See you next episode. Bye.